Okay, we're live again. This time for real, hopefully. So welcome everyone to another episode of Monk Radio, broadcasting here from Bangkok, Thailand, near actually it's probably Samut Prakan, technically. I'm not sure. Close to the airport. It's 4 a.m., just after 4 a.m. here. And I'm joined by Robin, for whom it's 5 p.m., I think.
Yes.
So we have a list of people who are allowed to join the video hangout. I think it's a bit dated, but certainly be open to having other people join the hangout. Now, some of the interest in Monk Radio is just in me answering questions. It's gotten a little bit more difficult as time goes on because I've answered a lot of the questions already. So the idea of having other people involved and mixing it up a little bit sort of seems appealing. So we'll wait a little bit here to let people hopefully get settled down and joined up. And
Did you want me to put a couple of questions from the queue up?
yeah, eventually.
Okay.
I was thinking maybe we could start with something a little different. Maybe Robin, you could tell us about yourself. Introduce yourself. Introductions are a good start.
Sure. My name is Robin, and I've been interested in Buddhism for just a little over a year now. I really didn't think much about it prior to that, and I did some reading about a year ago, and it became very, very interesting to me, and it's kind of a focal point of my life over this last year.
Wow.
And trying to catch up.
I didn't realize it was so new to you.
Yes. Yes. I'm trying to learn as much as I can.
That's great.
I spent today actually with a friend at a mindfulness and meditation day at a Korean Zen temple in Connecticut. It was very, very nice.
Okay,
I've learned a lot from your videos, absolutely.
Sorry?
I've learned a lot from your videos.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it.
I have not watched all 1,000 though.
I should have some kind of best of. It's hard to know. It's hard to sift through all of them and find the ones that are really of value, really essential, useful.
People enter in their favorite videos or the first one they watched or their favorite, the most meaningful one. There's so much out there.
Well, my name is Yuttadhammo. I'm a Buddhist monk, and I've been practicing Buddhism for many years now. It's funny to say that because it feels like it was just yesterday. It's been kind of a roller coaster the past 16 years now, no, 15 years now. And I've been a monk for 13 years, right? So total of 15 years. And I started teaching fairly early on, like helping, assisting. It was kind of like, if you want to learn it, well, you got to help me teach it as well. You got to help pass it on because there's always more people who want to learn. And so I got the idea always of passing on or finding a way of passing on the basics to a large number of people. Because I realized that it's actually, there's nothing wrong with having new people teach the basics. It's a lot of it's just information, and as long as you get the information right, power to you. Please, spread it as far as you can. And so I was happy to quote unquote teach, and it didn't feel like being a teacher. It was more like passing on rote information. This is how you walk, this is how you sit, and this is how you deal with this problem, and this is how you deal with that problem. Of course, over time, delivery got better, and I actually learned how to teach. At one point, I started on the internet. My mother was kind of, well, I guess I was always on the internet, but my mother pointed out this video site to me, and so I made a video on how to meditate, and that was my first YouTube video. Many years ago now, seven, I guess. And here we are today. We have 13 viewers, so still have a hardcore following, waiting to see what we're going to do next. What are we going to do?
Those original videos are still up, aren't they?
I don't know. And they're there. I'm not sure if they're private or public.
I think they might be public because I helped with the video wiki, and I kind of went through from most recent to oldest, and I'm pretty sure the original ones are there, unless maybe they weren't the original ones, but they looked pretty old.
There are there's three sets of the how to meditate videos, I think. And I still have to make a new set. I'm still not content. No, maybe someday. We'll make the last set that we did were fairly professionally done, although in the end I was doing some of the editing myself. I'd never done video editing. And so when you go ahead and give me this big powerful computer to work on, and I didn't know what I was doing, but here I was working with focus, close up, and far away. But I wasn't really prepared for it. It was my first. It wasn't my first. It was an odd time, and I think it shows in the videos. We only had one take. That was the thing. When I did them on my own, I could do it over and over again. So okay, I want to redo that one. Well, I didn't say it exactly as I wanted, but here I had a film crew, and we were on a time limit. And we had to finish all the videos in one day, kind of thing. Anyway, not really what people tuned into here. So maybe we should just get into answering questions. That's what we do best. Let's take some calls and See if we can help people. That's really what it's all about, is helping people. You help yourself, you help others. You don't make a distinction between the two. So here we are today, helping others in order to better ourselves. And luckily I have someone helping me do that. So Robin, you want to give us our first question?
Yes, just be right there.
Let me address something because I got an email recently. So it'd be probably good if I did a video. Maybe someday I'll do a video. There was something about medication and meditation. Whether a person on medication could come to whatever the question was. I gave my view that I gave not even a view. It was a policy that I'm sort of settling on, personally. I don't have any hard views on it, but I have kind of a soft view. And the soft view, meaning it could change, is that a person who comes to do a meditation course with us has to be off their medication, has to not be taking any psychoactive drugs. And I think I explained it fairly well what I meant by that, because it was qualified, and you have to understand the context in which I was saying that. But anyway, the background is I then got a email from someone who I think has had schizophrenia or bipolar, I can't remember, and was saying that without their medication they just can't function. There's no possible way. There's no benefit for them going off their medication. And I think that's a misunderstanding. My defense is that I think that's a misunderstanding of what exactly I was saying, though it does point out some unfortunate consequence of holding that view. The conclusion is that I don't think someone with schizophrenia is the average schizophrenic is in a place where they could do an intensive meditation course. It's kind of like those questions about why this sort of person or that sort of person can't become a monk, and it kind of misses the point that not everyone has to become a monk, and that becoming a monk is a specific practice that requires certain capabilities that not everyone has, like a healthy body. The biggest one is a healthy body, I think, but freedom from debt and that kind of thing. Now, doing an intensive meditation course is similar, and this is the one way in which that there's a similar restriction there, is in regards to one's mental health. A person with hardcore mental issues is probably not suited for the intensity of a meditation course in this tradition. Now, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't accept them to come and practice with me, but I just wouldn't take them through the course, because the course that we have is there's a sequence of practices. there's a sequence of knowledges that we are trying to sort of push the meditator through in a fairly limited amount of time. And it's not the kind of thing you can do for someone who has mental illness. So, and more importantly, I'm of the view that it's not something that can come about when one is taking psychoactive drugs, because I've seen how they affect the mind. They blur things and they dull things. They don't actually solve the problem. It's an artificial fix of the problem. I guess part of it has to do with the way that Buddhism looks at the brain, the mind, mental illness, and so on. It's more than just organic in the brain. It's organic in the stream of consciousness, meaning the mental illness is an aspect of where the consciousness is at. So drugs aren't going to fix that. They're going to dull the effects and dampen the effects, restrict the effects, but the root cause in the consciousness is still there. And it's more difficult to fix, if not, it's extremely difficult to fix if you're not looking at it objectively. And drugs prevent that. I mean, I've never been on prescription medication for the mind, so I can't say, but I've taught or tried to teach several people who were. And it's quickly discernible, the difference between those people's state of mind and an average meditator. And it's not because of the mental problems that they're having, the mental illness. It's because of the medication. You can see, you can experience as a teacher, there's something wrong, and you can catch it. They're too smooth. It's almost too easy for them. They're not having the experiences that they should. They're not able to realize the same things that they should. So long story short, the only way to progress, the point of it all is that the only way to progress is to have a natural state of mind. And if your natural state of mind is one that is unmanageable, then you have to first learn to manage it. That's your first goal. Enlightenment has to come second. First, you have to learn how to be with yourself. That's where meditation starts. Learning how to be with yourself. And if you can't do that, if you need medication, if you need something to just be with yourself, but I mean, in the sense, if you need to avoid being with yourself, then you're not going to progress. So it's my view, and I'm sure there's people out there who are going to hate me for it, and shout and denounce this person for their views, but to each their own. So there's something to sort of get the brain cells going. And it reminded me, because of here's our first question, who may actually have been the person who sent me a rather scathing email telling me I'm not the Buddha, not even enlightened, wrong about whatever I said. Could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm right, but trying to defend my views based on my own understanding. Okay, you want to... So let's read this question and see if it was answered by what I said. Can you read it to us, Robin?
I have schizophrenia. When off medication, I experience great suffering, with voices which lead to delusions and even greater distress. Is there real hope for resolution with meditative practice?
And this is a good question, and this is one I can answer. Yes. Qualifier, I've never had a schizophrenic student or one who admitted to it. I had one guy who talked to his God self, but I think he was a bit of I think it was just plain old spiritual delusion on his part. But an actual schizophrenic, and I've watched videos on what it's like to be what it's supposed to be like to be a schizophrenic, so I get it. I mean, the key factor in schizophrenia, as I understand it, is hallucination. Whatever comes as a result of that, the base is seeing and hearing, I guess mainly hearing things that aren't there. Having experiences that could only be classified as hallucinations. I think that's important to keep in mind, and for a schizophrenic to keep in mind, that you're not delusional. Schizophrenics are not necessarily, schizophrenia is not delusion, not from a Buddhist point of view. It's not paranoia, it's not fear, it's not depression, it's not suffering, it's not distress. It's not all the things that we normally associate, I think, generally associate with schizophrenia. The core of it is simply hearing things that are not really there. Because this is the method by which we deal with these things in Buddhism. We break it up into what is really happening. All the rest of that stuff, that comes as a result of the combination of the hallucinations and our own defilements, our own inability to deal with them. And so the meditation practice is simply learning how to deal with those hallucinations. You don't have to suffer from voices. The voices don't lead to delusions. It's the voices combined with what we call ayoniso manasikara, unwise reflection. When you approach the experience without wisdom, so you have the hallucination, and you say, "Oh, maybe that's God," or "That's my father's voice," or "What do these people want?" or "Is that real?" Doubting about whether it's real or not. Putting your attention in the wrong place. You're asking the wrong questions. Suppose you hear a voice and you say, "Is that God?" Or even if you say, "Is that real?" You're already asking the wrong questions from a Buddhist point of view. It's real. It's a voice. It's a sound. The sound is real. Beyond that, nothing is real. You hearing my voice now, the only thing real about it is the sound. I'm not real. You're not listening to me. In fact, we know that it's your computer speakers or your headphones or whatever that are vibrating and producing sound waves that are reaching your ears, which in turn are stimulating systems in the brain and neurons and so on, which in turn are processing and giving you the idea that you're actually hearing something that you recognize as me. But the only thing that's real is the actual experience. The experience of hearing. That's a Buddhist perspective. So if you can get that, and I'm reassured because I read an article by a schizophrenic once who had his PhD and I think was teaching at a university, and he said, people like me shouldn't exist. I think I mentioned this guy, a really neat article. He said, the doctors will tell you I'm an impossibility, because a schizophrenic can't become a professor, can't get their PhD, and they're always told, apparently, by their psychotherapists or psychologists to try and find some simple job that allows them to deal with their hallucinations and their delusions and their mental illness. without too much stress, don't ever think of doing something like getting their PhD. So he went on about how wrong these people really were, and how he realized how wrong they were. That actually he could do anything. The mental illness didn't have to get in his way. He could. All he had to do. It's not a simple task, but the only task was learning how to recognize the experiences for what they are. That's just a sound. It's just it's like hearing birds chirping. The problem only comes when we interpret the experience. It's not the experience itself. So schizophrenics have it really tough, no question about it. I don't envy anyone who has that. It's a difficult situation, to say the least, or to not say nearly enough. But the principle is the same, and the solution is the same. There's no other solution. You have to come to terms with it. You have to learn how to deal with it. And I had this neat articles by non-Buddhists, but was saying things that were quite reassuring, that it is possible. And absolutely, maybe that is with a combination of medication. No, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with. It's not that medication is bad and everyone should go off medication. It's that medication is a crutch, and you can't walk. You can't learn to walk with it. You have to eventually, when you want to learn how to run, you have to give up your crutches. So there is real hope. I guarantee it. And this Dhammapada, I think, illustrates a part of that for a lot of us, for a lot of people, enlightenment may not come in this life. We try these courses that we teach. These intensive courses are designed to lead people along the Buddhist path, and there's claims made of spiritual attainments. But there's claims that it's possible through these courses to attain spiritual enlightenment. But for some people, a course won't be possible, or even through the course, the results will not be seen in this life. But here we have this guy, Jambudika, who practiced for thousands of years, apparently. Practiced meditation for a long, long time, and then he did something really terrible. This meditation was probably not entirely sort of complete, I guess. He probably stopped at samatha and never gave rise to insight, or maybe just mundane insights. But then he did something really terrible and told off this arahat, this enlightened monk, and as a result went to hell. And if you look at the story, it seems like he really was just a rogue, and his meditation was all for naught. It's like he was a failure in the end, right? And then all of a sudden the Buddha shows up, and here he is, the worst of the worst, eating other people's feces, which is a thing, by the way. Someone said, how could you not die? And I looked it up. There's actually a name for eating feces. And it's interesting, because it karmically makes sense that some people, apparently schizophrenic, psychopaths, or people with serious mental illness, have in the past been documented as eating their own feces. And so it's perfectly reasonable to suggest that this sort of person existed, and that this was really happened in the past, because there's other documented cases of it. And from a Buddhist point of view, to suggest that it's karmically related. But see, the thing about karma is not to be discouraged by it, because then it's the worst of the worst, eating other people's feces, and being a total rogue about it as well. It wasn't like he wasn't just doing evil things. He was pretending to be a holy man. He was pretending to be this saint, standing on one leg and eating off the tip of a blade of grass. And so you're thinking, this is not a candidate for enlightenment, but the Buddha saw deeper than that, and he saw the meditation that this guy had done in the past, and he said, this is the guy who I'm going to teach today. And he went, and sure enough, all of that past good karma, all the past preparation that he had accomplished through his meditation so long in the past, so far in the past, suddenly came up, and like a seed just waiting for the rain, it flowered, it bore fruit, and he became an arahant. The point in regards to this question is that our meditation is never for naught. The meditation is always a benefit, so it's not even a matter of hope. It's the question is it any good? And the answer is yes. Every bit of meditation does good and leads you closer to the path, closer to the goal. So don't give up. Never give up. There's no reason to despair, because hope is in relation to a specific occurrence in the future, and you don't have to think like that. You just have to work for good, work towards the goal. And the harder you work and the more diligent you are, the sooner you can expect to reach the goal. That's it. Dokang, bit by bit, you fill yourself up with good. Okay, I think that's enough for that question. Thank you. Okay, we're going by the number of pluses that they have. G47 from Argentina. Go ahead.
Two related questions. Is lay Buddhism just a kind of compromise for those who aren't capable of monastic life? And how do those that have responsibilities they can't forego, like children, integrate the Buddhist teaching into their lives?
Yeah. It's a bit of a, there's not really a good answer to that. On the one hand, yes, a lay Buddhist life is a compromise, and it's in some ways a conflict. It's a contradiction. So you have conflicting states. Most lay people have conflicting states. I mean, many monks have conflicting states, but lay people have strong conflicts. There's the conflict of the married life. So they'll be having romantic involvement, sexual involvement with another person, or be engaged in entertainment and so on. And all of that is actually detrimental to one's meditative practice. But on the other hand, there is this kind of lay person who stays as a lay person out of obligation. And well, you couldn't entirely, I don't think you could entirely support that. Couldn't entirely support that. You can almost support that as an excuse to stay as a lay person, because it seems that a person who becomes an arahant, a fully enlightened being, or I guess you could say, a person who is free from any defilement, would not stay in the lay life no matter what. They would pass away. They would rather pass away. This is the agreed upon understanding of what happens when you become enlightened. You either become a monk or you pass away, because the lay life is just not conducive. So there's there's something there. It's a sense that some sort of defilement, although how refined it actually is keeping us from giving up the lay life. But I think for all intents and purposes we can ignore that, because it's also kind of like saying, you're saying, I'm still doing this because I'm defilement. Well, I'm still practicing meditation because I have defilements. Arahant doesn't practice meditation just out of habit. We're doing it, taking courses and dedicating ourselves to meditation because we still have defilements. So to say that a person is still in lay life because they have defilements, it's still taking care of their lay obligations because they have defilements. It's not exact. It's hard to say which came first, or which is the cause and which is the effect. It's the state that person is in, and they might be very much on the path. So a lay person can be very dedicated to enlightenment. They might have given up all entertainment, all romance or sexual activity. They might only be eating once. If they keep the 8 precepts, they're doing better than a lot of monks, to tell you the truth. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say that. It's a sad reality. And certainly can make wonderful progress and can simplify their lives and live better than many monks, because monastic life these days is not what it's all cut out to be. I'm not staying in a monastery right now. I'm staying in a hut in the middle of I guess you have to say it's in the middle of a factory, actually. They have this jewelry factory, actually. It's just a little small operation. They have this building next to me where they have loud machines. And over on this side, there's some nice trees. Anyway, point is, anyone can live like this. You don't have to wear robes. I mean, it's great that I don't touch money and go on alms round, but the actual practice is what's important. There's nothing special about me because I'm a monk. And special is in your meditation practice and your morality, which it's a work in progress, really, for all of us. Hope that answered the question. Yeah, I think that's hopefully answered your question. Why isn't this homosexuality one getting bumped to the top? It's got +2. Okay, let's go for this one. I think I've answered this before, but let's talk about it.
What are your views on homosexuality? And is Buddhism for it or against it?
My views on homosexuality. Well, okay. That's the thing about questions is the interesting thing about questions is you can start at any point, and you have to decide where you're going to start, because you want to say 2 or 3 things about it. So which do you say first? It's kind of like, do you want the good news or the bad news first? It's mostly good news. There's just a little bit of bad news, and I don't want to say it first, because then you'll think that that's my main opinion, and it's not. But it's the interesting part, is the bad stuff. Anyway, yeah, it's all interesting. The main point is my view on homosexuality is that the basic nature of it is just like any other sexuality. It's the attraction to. It's not the attraction. It's a set of states, including attraction, desire, and pleasure, based around the human body. So, whether your attraction, your desire, your pleasure is in relation to a person of the same gender or of a different gender is really inconsequential. It's all the same, essentially. So that's my view on homosexuality. I think that's the core of my view. There's little qualifiers there, like footnotes. So I'll get into those, but I really do mean it. Essentially, from a point of view of the dharma, the practice, it's. I've heard other teachers say something so different. I mean, I don't know if I want to start telling about other people's views, but I've had teachers. I know one teacher, let's put it that way, who was trying to convince a layman to be not gay. They said, well, if you can do one thing for me, just be not gay. And it's kind of such a Christian thing well, sorry, I just know many Christian people of certain denominations who try to do that, and it's just not really a Buddhist thing to do, and I don't get it. I don't see it in Buddhism. I don't see the Buddha, the Buddha who took this guy who was eating other people's feces and said, oh, come now, why don't you practice meditation with me? And didn't really bat an eyelash at the whole eating crap, So to think that the Buddha would denounce or judge people or say, just stop being gay, it just doesn't seem like it's something that he would concern himself with. It would be much more like, study desire and pleasure and attraction and come to refine your understanding about where happiness lies, like everyone. There's no distinction. I think if we did that, if we understood that, all this rubbish about there's nothing about the evils of homosexuality. Buddhism doesn't have that. There's no man shall not lie down with man as a man lies down with a woman. I mean, that's in the Deuteronomy, what the Judeo-Christian tradition says, and I don't know what in the Christian New Testament it says it's a sin, I think. In Islam, there's, I think, more talk about it, but Buddhism doesn't have that. So what are the so that's my views, and I think that also answers, is Buddhism for or against it? So we'll go a little bit further. Buddhism is definitely against it, but only insofar as Buddhism is against all forms of sexuality. Sexuality is something that Buddhism says doesn't actually make you happy. It doesn't actually lead to satisfaction. It doesn't lead to anything good. And they say, well, but it leads to birth, and yes, that's the point. Buddhism says birth is not a good thing as well. Birth doesn't lead to happiness either. It's a philosophical argument. We're not talking practically. I mean, practically speaking, most people see sexuality as a good thing, right? And homosexuality doesn't actually lead to birth, which is an argument people make. But Buddhism doesn't have that. There's no sense that that sex is for procreation. Buddhism just doesn't have that view. Sex is not good because it leads to procreation. There's no, because there's no God. We're not dealing with, this is the way it should be. Nature made it this way, and you're doing it against nature. Because what is nature? Nature is what we make it. And this is why I said the body is unnatural, and I've gotten called out for that. The body is unnatural. You will not have me change my opinion on that. The body is an unnatural construct. Now, as I said in the unnatural video, it's only unnatural insofar as anything can be unnatural, because in actual fact, nothing is unnatural. But there is this word unnatural, and the distinction. I've gone over this. I won't go over it in too much detail again, but the distinction is that which is made by humans and that which is not made by humans. That's the distinction between natural and unnatural. It's an artificial distinction, the best I could do. The body is made by us. We create it based on our experiences, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. This is a construct. It's not natural. It's not something outside of the human cultivation or the human realm of change, of creation. Anyway, so homosexuality, sexuality just fits in there. So somehow we cultivated the act of procreation, and now all these homosexuals are tossing it out the window, and the female homosexuals they can have artificial insemination. Male homosexuals can adopt, so they're just doing it their own way, or finding new ways to achieve their goals, and new ways to have pleasure and as they believe, to find happiness. So, but Buddhism is against all this, just not in the sense of denouncing it, but in the sense of saying you're wrong. It doesn't actually make you happy. It doesn't actually bring you peace. It doesn't make you a better, happier person. So, the little qualifiers I would have to talk about, and I'm glad I approached this the way I did, because now maybe it's going to at least be in context, is that becoming a monk. See, one of the reasons why becoming a monk is valuable is because it secludes you from the objects of your desire. So it protects you. And being a monk doesn't make you a better person, it makes you kind of a luckier person. You have to deal with less, and that's the point. So that you can learn how to deal with stuff. Like training, it gives you a training buffer. You step back and you're able to, rather than react to everything, you're able to learn how to just interact. And you can only do that by stepping back. So monks, female or male, have this. Now, for heterosexuals, that's a fairly easy thing to do. You put the men with the men and the women with the women, and that's it. I mean, ideally you're on your own, but when you have groups, monastic institutions work best when the genders are secluded, because celibacy is much easier to maintain, and they work better when everyone is heterosexual, unfortunately. I mean, this isn't something against homosexuality. I'm not trying to build a case against homosexuality. I'm just saying, for those who become ordained, you've got a bit of a problem, because let's take men, okay, for the men who are attracted to women, it's okay, there's no women around. You're not living with women. You're not getting massages from women. You're not sharing saunas with women. So the worst you have is your fantasies and the women that you see on alms round and that kind of thing. Sexuality is a big part of our the work we have to do. It's hard to do when the temptation is so strong. Now, when you have homosexuals, then all of a sudden the objects of your desire are sharing saunas with you, are sitting very close to you in ceremonies and procedures, are potentially massaging you, because monks, yes, they do give each other, they are supposed to give the older monks massages anyway, or give massage their teacher's legs or so on. You know, there's cases where that, like from a teacher to a student, in a totally platonic manner, where it does take place. I think usually for older monks. I've never had anyone massage me. I think there was once, I think I remember correctly, where there was questionable intentions. But there's definitely a couple of times where I've been approached by monks with questionable intentions. And so I've talked about that before and gotten in kind of trouble from people who were homosexual, I think. Quite indignant about these views of homosexuals not being able to... I mean, I said something maybe a little bit out of line. I said, you know, being surrounded by a bunch of men in skirts is probably not the best environment for someone who's dealing with sexual urges of the homosexual kind. You know, a man dealing with homosexual urges, trying to become free from desire, probably doesn't help to be surrounded by men in skirts. And I think that was probably a insensitive thing to say. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek, though. But there's certainly something to it, because homosexual monasticism is a big problem. I mean, I've heard that there are apparently monasteries where the entire monastery is homosexual, and they only ordain homosexuals. I'm hoping such places in reality don't exist, but I'm not. No, I'm not even hoping, but I'm. It would be nice if such places didn't exist, but I certainly wouldn't be surprised to find out that what I've heard is actually true, and that you have this. You know, and by homosexual, I mean at least somewhat actively homosexual, which is really shocking. Although not to me, because of things that I've seen. Seen not so much, but I have been, as I said, confronted by some fairly dubious intentions from others. Anyway. Maybe a little question here, but so that's one part, is monasticism is problematic for homosexuals. That's not to say that we should forbid homosexuals from becoming monks. It's that there's a new element there that wasn't foreseen by, or that complicates and reduces the value of single gender celibacy, monastic celibacy, or single gender cohabitation, because suddenly it's not as meaningful anymore. There is the potential for sexual activity among the monastics. You know, there's a danger there that arises. So it's something that we have to keep in mind, and we have to. I think we do have to screen and make aware and have some sensitivity for people for homosexuals who want to ordain. You know, can they really do it? Are they aware of the difficulty, the potential for problems? I mean, I guess what can you do? On the other hand, what's the alternative? You know, what do you do? Send them with the female monks? I don't know. You can't. You know, you just have to accept them. But certainly there's problems there. The other thing, and it's just something that I've always kind of, it's just one point that's always stuck in my mind, is that you could probably say, and it's just a small footnote here, but you could probably say that certain types of, I don't know if I even want to go there. I was just going to say that certain types of sexual act may be considered more coarse and defiled than others. Of course, it's not really the act that's the problem, it's one's intentions. And I mean, I put it out there. love between two people, first of all, is actually not wrong. Love is not wrong, but sexual activity is due to desires and lusts and really a misunderstanding about the nature of the body, because the body is not attractive. There's nothing that is really objectively attractive about the body. There's no good quality to it. But like acts like no, I don't want to go into it. Anyway, I just don't think I'm gonna come to a satisfactory conclusion. But I think when sexual activity becomes more coarse, it's a potential, you can say, for it to be. So I was just asking, is one better than the other or something, you know? And you can't, of course, generalize like that, but you have to be mindful and understand the potential for coarseness to arise in mind. I think the interesting thing about sexual activity is that doesn't seem to be a stable thing. It's hard to keep it stable. So this is why one partner is never enough, and people are unfaithful. But the coarseness of the act seems to be hard to keep stable as well. So people always want further and further. You know, there's this interesting case now in Canada. But I thought, you know, I read headlines and I have to consider. Sometimes I get interested in a case or a news story, and then I have to consider to say, is this really something for me to be interested in? But this one actually is, I think. And sexuality is, of course, I think, quite interesting for monks and for Buddhists. But this isn't quite about sexuality. It's the Jian Gomeshi case. It's about harming others. It's about hurting others. It's about mental illness, really. It's about the horror that comes from hurting others. And then I thought it's also about compassion for those people who are so sick that they do hurt others. And that this is just where is this coming from? I don't know that in this case, this is a case of build-up, but it certainly does seem that happens, that it starts out, your desires start out on this level, and they start to escalate up to this level. So anyway, but that doesn't have anything to do with homosexuality. I was just, I don't want to go there. It's not really, I don't really have views, so I'm not going to go out on a limb and say it. Just no, not even. Let's stop there. That was it. And I apologize if by even insinuating that I don't even want to make it seem like I was insinuating anything. Just speculating, and decided not to speculate, so didn't. How are we doing here? I've answered 2 questions in an hour. It's got to be a record.
Good answers, though.
Three questions? Did we at least get 3 questions so far? I think we've made it through 3. All right, let's keep going. I have to, in 55 minutes, I have to go on alms round, so I think we'll cut it off at 5:30.
Okay.
That's another 25 minutes. Okay, go ahead, Robin.
Okay. How to know if we are deceived by some thought or intention?
Deception is the difficult one. Delusion is, you actually can't be mindful of delusion because it's the opposite of mindfulness. Gee, I'm not even sure if that's true. I'm just trying to think technically speaking, and it's not really important. But I guess the point there is that if you're deceiving yourself, you're not in a state of mindfulness. So you can't really, right? It's the opposite. So how do you know? Is you counteract it with mindfulness, and by cultivating clear states of mind, you're able to see the error of your ways. So it's like I'll just pick up some random. When you didn't have your glasses on, you looked at this and you thought it was a light bulb. Well, just a ridiculous example, okay? But you saw something like this and saw it from far away, and without your glasses on, you thought it was a light bulb. So you had this delusion that this was a light bulb. But then you put your glasses on and you came closer, and you realized it's an empty bottle of water. It's kind of like that. The meditation helps you see things in a new light, and that helps you realize that the way you were looking at them before was wrong. I think you call it by inference. So you don't actually realize as you're doing it that it's wrong, but your new understanding helps you, convinces you that your old understanding was wrong. So the basic answer is meditate. That's how you come to know. You won't know in that moment, but by seeing things in a new light, you'll realize that you were deceived by the old way you saw it. Hey, Brenna. I don't like questions that are prefaced by this person said that, this person said that. I have kind of a rule that I'm not going to say, I'm not going to agree or disagree. I'm not going to give what do I think about answers, because I don't think about. But this is, here you've given it doesn't really matter who said this. You have a statement, so this is easy enough. You can say, what do you think about this statement? I haven't even read your statement yet. Anyway, so I'm going to give it a go. Go ahead, Robin, please read it to me.
Hope is based on the future and is therefore delusional. Do you agree with this stance or the Buddhist attitude toward hope?
The stance on the Buddhist attitude towards hope. Hope is based on the future and is therefore delusional. That's interesting. It's not how I would have put it. Hope is based on desire. Hope isn't the defining quality of hope isn't, in my mind, delusion. But it is delusional. All desire is delusional. Hope is just another word for want, right? And it's maybe even tinged with some kind of fear or anxiety, because you're not sure if you're going to get it. But we use the word hope because we feel also not just desire, but I would say anxiety, not sure what's going to happen. You can want something and be pretty sure that you're going to get it. But that's not really hope, right? Hope is desire. So you see, when you use these words, you're actually talking about many different things, and when you put them together, they get a flavor to them. The depression, frustration. It's all just anger, fear, but they have different. It's a combination of different states. But the fact that hope is in the future isn't what I would pinpoint as wrong about it. Because it's no more wrong than having reminiscing about the past, right? But then you can say, well, past and future are equally delusional, anything that's in the past or futures. But you can be delusional about the present as well. It's interesting. I mean, it's just not how I would define, or what I would find interesting about the word hope. It's not so important to me that it's in the future, because it's a matter of how you teach people. I'm not criticizing anyone here. I'm just speculating from my own on this idea. When someone's hoping, what you want them to focus on is the desire, not the fact that it's in the future, because desire can be in the past, the future, or the present. The only time you'd want to talk to someone about the future is when the essential quality of it was I guess that's it. No, hope is kind of, I hope that tomorrow is like this or like that. I mean, that's the thing, is teachers have different styles, so it's just not how I would teach. I guess here's my point, is that hope is the essential quality of hope is a desire, right? When you're talking about delusion, that's only highlighted in states like anxiety, doubt, worry. Those are the states. Confusion, arrogance, conceit. Those are the pure delusion mind states. So I wouldn't highlight delusion in regards to hope. I would highlight greed, because it is more than just delusion. Its most important quality is the desire. So when talking about don't go to the future, don't go to the past, that seems much more useful for this mind state. Not entirely. No, it's not even really about the future. It's about the idea that hope is delusional. I mean, he's not really saying anything about. He's not giving a essential definition of hope. He's just pointing out that hope is delusional. I think it seems a little bit oblique to me to say that it's delusional because it's in the future. It's not really delusional because it's in the future. It's delusional because it doesn't understand that getting what you want won't make you happy, right? You hope for something. The problem isn't it's in the future. The problem is once you get it, it's not going to satisfy you, right? Or more to the point, hoping for something is a cause for suffering. It's a cause for addiction. It's a cause for dissatisfaction, because you're not going to get what you want. See, there's nothing. The important points have nothing to do with it's in the future. The important points are hope is not useful for you. Hope doesn't make you happy. It doesn't bring good results in the future. It's it's about the desire, the problem there. Hope I've cleared up or elucidated my own stance on that. Good question, sort of. I don't like questions. It's fine, but you have to understand you put me in a difficult place when I'm actually in an email conversation with Sujato right now, Venerable Sujato right now. Sort of. I'm lax with my email communications, but I'm sure he doesn't mind. He probably says all sorts of things about me as well. Okay, next question. Go ahead, please.
What are your views on the Zen idea of not trying to achieve anything? Thank you for your work and kindness. Robin and Yuttadhammo.
Thank you for your appreciation. I'm not trying to achieve anything. I don't know, it's dangerous. I understand it. And on the one hand, it's understandable. I don't think it works in... I don't know. See, again, no, I can't answer this. I don't think about Zen, so I'm not going to. Done. Sorry. Sorry, I don't answer such questions. That's why I don't answer them, because they're difficult. Articles on sexuality. What articles was I talking about on sexuality?
Was that when you were talking about the headlines you were reading about?
Oh, Jian Gomeshi? It's a Canadian thing. There was this, when I was growing up, there was a band called Moxie Fruvis. This guy was one of the headliners. Do you hear about this in the States, Robin?
No.
You don't know Jian Gomeshi, I guess. Oh, it's the story in Canada right now. It's huge. Moxie Fruvis, so they were kind of a Canadian icon. They went platinum in Canada. I didn't really know all of this, but I knew Moxie Fruvis. I didn't even know who this guy was when the case broke. Like, who's this guy? And CBC is our main broadcaster, and he's been their frontliner, I guess. I mean, obviously I know nothing about any of this, but I do know Moxie Fruvis, and now I find out he was one of these guys I was listening to when I was younger. So kind of a really Canadian icon in the music industry, I guess. And I guess he went on after that and became very, very well loved. You know, everyone really liked this guy. And as of yesterday, I think 9 women have come forward and said he beat them while they were together. Like he would engage in, you know, in order to turn himself on, in order to cultivate sexual desire, he would actually hit them over the head. And, you know, it wasn't even that he was like an abusive husband or something. It was like he actually got pleasure out of this. I mean, this is what they're alleging. You know, these 9 women. That's 9 women now, and one of them is another famous Canadian actress. Anyway, so I don't have links. I mean, it wasn't really the point of my wasn't the point of my answer, but and I certainly didn't want to compare homosexuality to the sorts of things that he is accused of doing, but I guess it was just to point out that to say someone is heterosexual or homosexual doesn't really say anything about the acts that they're performing. So, you know, someone can be homosexual in the sense that they're attracted to someone of the same gender, or heterosexual in the sense that they're attracted to someone of the other gender, and not be actively sexual, you know, not be sexually active. So to say, you know, does Buddhism have a problem with homosexuality? It much more deals with the individual acts of sexuality. So what is the nature of the act? What is the intention behind the act? You know, that was all I was trying to say. Didn't want to get into Jian Gomeshi. Although pointing out that it is an interesting case because it has to do with morality, and it has to do with goodness and mental illness, and really how incredible. Well, I guess also how people are able to maintain a public image, like me. You know, I have this public image, how you all see me, and then there's who I really am. I could be I'm not, but you know, it's interesting being being a person, being out in public, because there's a real potential for abuse. It's an interesting case, I think, from a Buddhist point of view. Brenna is reducing his answers to one statement. Why Paul Williams is wrong about Buddhism. You see, that's why I don't want to go there. I don't want to wade into that. I don't even know who Paul Williams is or why Sujato is saying he's wrong. Thank you, Patrick. I guess I just flick these ones up here. Any comments? Robin, are you able to post questions, or am I the only one able to do this?
No, I've been posting. I posted 3 or 4 questions from Google Moderator.
Oh, but are you able to actually select them?
No, not that I know of. Possibly there's a control here that I just haven't come across, but as far as I know, no.
How are you posting them? You have the actual video open somewhere? Or?
Yes, I have the Sirimangalo, Radio at Sirimangalo page open.
And so you can post questions as a questioner?
Yes.
So Brenna, I'm not going to read that article that you've now posted about this, but the only time I've ever gone out on a limb, it's still up. I wrote an article about one very famous monk and how he was wrong. He's wrong, and his views are up on the internet about something the Buddha said, and the Buddha never said it. Is some way of backing up his perfectly valid interpretation or practice, but backing it up as being, well, just backing it up by saying the Buddha said something wrong. I got real trouble because I actually kind of worded it fairly poorly. I think the first draft my first edition was harsh. It was kind of derisive even, and so I was rightfully called out for it. But then his followers came out in droves and posting essays in the comment sections and that kind of. So I've learned my lesson. I'm controversial enough without wading into other people's controversies. Go ahead, Robin, sorry.
I was just saying, it sounds like he's giving a fake Buddha quote.
Who? This guy, Sujato? I don't think he was. I don't think he's wrong in what he's saying. Just from that quote that was given to me, even if that was just a paraphrase.
Oh, the person that you had written about that had said something Buddha didn't say, was that like a fake Buddha quote?
It wasn't even a quote. It was just here's what it was, and actually several monks subscribe to this view. But the view is that it's a technical view, actually. But see, the point is, some people want to say that you have to practice tranquility meditation first. There's no way to get around it. You have to enter. This bliss is a necessary part of the practice, this entering into these perfect states of calm and tranquility. This is a necessary precursor to vipassana insight. I mean, I hope I'm not straw-manning anyone there, but so they go about backing this up by pointing out all the places the Buddha mentions the jhana or encourages practice of the jhana. But then they go one step further in this case, or this teacher goes one step further by saying that the Buddha discovered jhana. no one practiced jhana before. I don't think he actually puts this into words, but the implication, the clear implication, and I'm pretty sure if cornered, this would actually be the view. No one practiced jhana before the Buddha. I mean, that's really what is being said. It's not even insinuated. It's really explicitly, not explicitly, implicitly. It's the gist of it is that the Buddha was the first one to practice jhana. And so the counter-argument to such a silly claim is that the Buddha had two teachers who taught him jhana. And so this is the background here. And so this claim was that those two teachers didn't teach jhana, didn't teach the Buddha jhana. They couldn't have, and here's the quote, because the Buddha said, and here this is not what the Buddha said, but here's what he was claiming that the Buddha said. The Buddha said that the only time, the Buddha said that the only time he entered into jhana was when he was 5 years old. 5 years old? 6 months old? I can't remember. When he was very young, under the rose apple tree during the plowing ceremony. If I'm being faithful, that's the gist of it. Now, the Buddha never said that. Buddha never said that. It says, so therefore, what these two teachers taught must have not been jhana, which is absurd because they taught him to get to the 7th and 8th jhanas respectively, the 3rd and 4th arupa jhanas respectively. How can you enter into a state of nothingness without entering into jhana? Let alone neither perception nor non-perception. How could you get there without jhana? What other way could there be? How could this not be considered jhana? I mean, there's a huge, huge body of literature based on the idea. It's just so ingrained in the tradition that that's jhana. Very weird. And so the Buddha never said that. The Buddha never said that the only time he experienced jhana as a bodhisattva. And so to say that the Buddha did say such a thing is misleading. Well, you see what the Buddha did say, and it is kind of interesting. The Buddha did say that he thought back to when he entered into the first jhana, when he was sitting under the rose apple tree. So the question arises, why did he think back to that? And why did he not think to what was being taught by these two teachers? Right? If he did actually practice jhana then, why would he think back to when he was very, very young? And here we get into a sort of what did the Buddha really say, and how do you, how faithfully was it recorded? And so we're nitpicking the Buddha's words. Why did he, unless there's a categorical statement, this is where you get into really dangerous territory. But if he had argued that way and said, look, it seems like that was the only time he entered into jhana because that's what he thought back to. The Bodhisattva thought back to when he'd entered into the first jhana under the rose apple tree. So how could he have? So it's clear that he probably didn't enter it. If he'd framed it like that, then it would be a valid argument, and I'd have to refute it. But to say the Buddha categorically, to claim that the Buddha said, explicitly stated that he had never entered into jhana, the only time he'd entered into jhana. Anyway, you can see it's a very technical argument, but it's these kind of deceptions that lead people erroneously to believe things that, to focus on things that maybe don't need such focus. If it's something unique to Buddhism, but it's absurd. I mean, jhana is so common. It's the common element to all meditation. Not all meditation, but all productive meditation. Christian meditation, Jewish meditation, Sufi meditation, secular meditation, I mean, transcendental meditation. What are they entering into if it's not jhana? It's just absurd, really. Anyway, so, you see, I can get caught up in these things. Okay, Robin, I'm going to skip yours because it's canned, right? Oh no, there's so many. Look at all these. Let's quickly go through some of these because we're over time already. I don't know if I can do any of these justice. Well, we'll go for another 10 minutes. Okay, I'm just going to read them and reply to them. Advice for those suffering from financial burden. Well, don't suffer from it. Finances are just numbers. Keep your mind clear. Start there. You can only start where you are. Don't try and start as a monk. Start where you are, and wherever you go, there you are. It's trite, I know, but you really have to work on separating the finances from the suffering. Because in the end, it's only seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, thinking. And if you're out on the street or living in a mansion, it's all just sensory experience. And we're all going to die in the end. And worrying about it only makes it worse. Doesn't help in any way. Getting upset about things doesn't bring you freedom from suffering. Right, to some extent. You do have to work. You do have to try. But, get your mind in a good place and you'll be able to be in a much better position to work your problems out. Okay, skipping Robin's. We can do that one later. Someone's posting the Jiango Meshi. Okay. I used to do this. There was this odd Lama in Florida. I don't know if anyone's seen those videos where we did the news. We Buddha'd the news. We could do that again someday. A person with a total lack of faith, how can one get motivation to practice formal meditation? Everything is impermanent. What is the point of making any kind of effort? I don't know that you need a point for effort. I think effort is something that comes naturally with wisdom. Doesn't mean effort in the sense of pushing yourself. Although in some cases I think it does. For a person who's unenlightened, effort is there's some kind of push. We're not enlightened. You can't pretend that you are and then just say, well, I'm not going to do anything because enlightened people don't do anything. We're not enlightened. We have to do stuff. We have to work. Unless if you're an arahant, or a Buddha, then you have nothing left to do. Katang karaniyam, done is what needs to be done in that case. Okay, again, is this Robin? Is this actually you?
No, that's still a canned question. I can flag the other ones, but I can't seem to flag and get rid of anything that I've posted. So.
It's okay, Brenna. I'm not upset at you. I just, I don't want people to get the idea that I'm scolding them or something, or just discarding what they say. It's just, I have to have guidelines for myself. Isn't hope a way of self-motivation? But it sounds kind of curiosity for this question. Isn't hope a way of self-motivation to get ahead, to go ahead? It's just semantics. There could be a Buddhist hope But no, I don't think so. No, you shouldn't hope to become enlightened or that kind of thing. I think it's a bad word to use. How to let go, meditate. Sorry, that one makes my brain hurt. Demonic possession and hauntings. Well, Buddhism has them. Please explain the concept of reincarnation. Not this morning, sorry. I've got a video on it, go look it up. My video on the nature of reality, if you're interested, is kind of a short, maybe it doesn't satisfy all people, but, or what's my, yeah, the nature of reality. How can you say the body is not natural? Watch your video, it just doesn't make any sense at all. You can keep it short. All right. Last one. How do I keep it short about the body being unnatural? Right. Well, Buddhism, you have to understand what I mean by natural and unnatural. Everything is natural. Because what does it mean to say something is unnatural? But if you subscribe to a view, a distinction between that which is made by humans and that which is made not by humans. Yeah, it's such an artificial distinction. But the body is clearly, the point is that we are very much a very big part of what has led to this human form. Our life after life decisions have very much affected. That's not to say that the environment and nature hasn't also played a huge part, but I don't think it played the defining part. The defining part is our minds. Our minds put this together based on the available resources. Life after life, countless lifetimes of refinement, and we're still altering. So the reason why humans are still born differently, and you might even say why genetic mutation occurs, is because of the changes. Our understanding is that a lot of it has to do with the nature of the mind of the individual. I mean, we would probably say that the 9 months in the womb is a time of intense I don't know what the word is. Intense artifice. The word, I know there's a word, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but it's where the mind is really changing things, where the mind is really messing with the fetus, messing with these two cells that get together, and messing with the cells as they really affecting. The fact that there's a mind involved there is really wreaking havoc on the process. So that's what I mean by unnatural. The product, the child that is born out of the womb is a product of those 9 months that involves the mind. And the mind is in many ways the author, or the conductor anyway, of the symphony. It's really leading the show. You may disagree with me. You may say I'm full of it, but that's what I mean. And as to whether I can substantiate my views and premises and so on, that's going to take a lot longer than keeping it short. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for coming, everyone. Good to have you from Brazil. It's nice. We have people from all over the world. For those of you who haven't, please check out meditation.sirimangalo.org. I should do a video on it. So it's becoming a real thing.
And the app.
And the app. There's even an app. Is this my last monk radio? No. Not likely. Who knows? I may die tomorrow. I might die on the street this morning. The problem with a lack of faith is that you need it to believe three things: that there is such a thing as I disagree. You don't need faith to think that enlightenment exists. Enlightenment is freedom from defilement. You need wisdom to see that it exists. If you can't see that it exists, you're just caught up in delusion, which most of us are, fair enough. But you don't need faith because it's a part of the nature of reality. There is defilement, and there is the act of defiling oneself, so there is also the act of purification. It's quite clearly real. Nothing really to do with faith. Or that it's desirable. I mean, insofar as there is such a word as desirable, insofar as that word exists and has meaning, enlightenment is the definition of it. Nothing is more desirable, and it's there's logical arguments that one can process in one's mind that make that exceptionally clear. But I suppose you need to meditate to see that. I mean, you need a clear mind. See, that's the thing. With delusion in the mind, you can't see any of that. So yeah, it's kind of like a vicious cycle. Your delusion doesn't let you see that you're deluded. Your delusion doesn't see that it would be good to give up delusion. It's a scary thing. That's why most people don't ever practice meditation. And we're done. Thank you. That was a great session.
Thank you, Bhante.
38 viewers in the end. Thank you, Robin, for being such
Have a good alms round.
Thank you. Yeah, I just better go get ready. So, through the power of all of our good deeds on this occasion, may we all be able to cultivate goodness and free ourselves from the defilements that lead us to perform evil deeds. May we all attain enlightenment and become free from suffering. Sad. And we're